All right.
Oh, hey,
We
what's
are
up, Dan?
live. Greetings, everyone, as we are entering the realm of the vlogcast. We have not been here in ages. And
Hmm.
that is a shame, but we were busy with apparently caught up in a never-ending Friday the 13th loop.
Yeah.
Yes.
But now we are free of that, and we're going to continue. I did want to dedicate this particular vlogcast to uh, our cat Carpy, who you see is my symbol and there. This is actually the first anniversary of his passing, and
Hmm.
Oh,
old man, you are greatly missed.
Indeed. Mr. Larson was awesome.
well, and
He was.
and let's not forget my avatar there, Mr. Ash there, because he's still a kitten, and so when one door closes, another one opens.
Indeed.
Indeed,
There's
and I've
so
got a cat in
many,
my lap right now.
right? And we have
So,
cats.
But
We
sorry
are.
for my
well,
Where are
hey,
we at?
we're kind of glad that we got little kittens, we got older cats, and we've got some interesting concepts to talk about. So to people who are listening, of
Mhm.
course, the topics are technically somewhat open. If y'all write in a comment, if one of us sees it, I just ask that we try to make sure we get to it. As
Mhm.
a nicety to our viewers. But if
Mhm.
you can, of course, we always would be curious what other people have an interest of the topic. So if you have something on
Mhm.
topic, of course, feel free to let us know. We would definitely love to hear that.
Right.
So with that being said, the topic is, as most of you saw on the sign, scalpers versus resellers.
Mhm.
Is there a difference? Now, we've got people on both sides of that, I am sure. But I wanted to go ahead and, I've talk about our people here. We've got Dane back with us, which we do appreciate having you on with
Yeah, hell
us.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
you've dabbled in some of the selling of movies as well. Um,
Mhm.
we've got Dave, who has dabbled in the buying of movies.
I think we've
uh,
all dabbled.
we've all dabbled
Oh,
in that.
I'm a heavy
Maybe a
seller
little bit
or
more.
a heavy buyer.
Mhm.
And of course, all
You
of us, I
froze
think,
on
have
us.
sold at
Mhm.
one point. And when Dave gets back with us, um,
Mhm.
we'll check on his. But why don't I start with you, Dane? What do you think? Resellers versus scalpers. Is there a difference?
yeah. So traditionally, a seller is just that. You buy something, you sell it, whoop de doo. But I think a scalper is generally somebody that either buys up a large supply item that is supply anyway, buys up
Mhm.
a lot of
Now you're breaking up,
them
Dane.
and sells them in prices, or they just take
Mhm.
advantage of selling things for more than they're worth, like to and in such a way that you're taking advantage of people that really want them.
Yeah.
It's like selling water to a thirsty starving person in the desert, and selling it at an exorbitant price because you can, as opposed
Right.
to just doing what you normally do, which is when you sell stuff, you want to at least make your money back, if not make a profit. So there is a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, what about you, Jake? Reseller versus scalper. Do you feel like there's a difference?
Oh, definitely. I mean, and I've had a little bit of firsthand experience on both counts recently. I mean, as Dave is the beneficiary of some of my current reselling, every now and then I'll dredge through my collection and find what I have duplicates or I've upgraded at some point or something, end up with a duplicate, and then I will sometimes offer them to people, but sometimes I will want to make some money back, or even if it's a rarity, try to make a profit. And I just see that as, well, when you spend as much as we do, if you can get a little back for it, then that's great. That works. But I've also had some experience. I'm almost sure that I had some direct experience with the scalper thing, as I think most of us here have. I'm sure Mo will has a sordid tale to share with us. But I know Brandon and I both had to deal with this recent attempt to get Violet Evergarden, and I'm quite sure scalpers are probably partly to blame for that crap.
Oh yeah, that's a great example, because the premium edition of that set, and they belonged to a studio that was burned in a fire by somebody who had issues.
Yes.
Oh God, I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah.
And we were really looking forward to this release, but that premium edition of that set sold out very quickly.
Yeah.
I still have a Best Buy pre-order for it, but I don't really have any hope for it, because it's just like anything else. They probably oversold
and that
it.
actually brings up a third topic that we could insert as sort of an addendum to this, which again, I know, the subject will come up, I'm sure, in a moment regarding Arrow, but in this case, regarding Funimation, I wasn't watching it closely. I think you found out before I did that it had sold out. Funimation was the distributor, and I'm pretty sure as the distributor, they probably did not oversell. But I think at this point, it is clear that Right Stuff, Best Buy, and Amazon oversold that item. And I ordered it from an eBay seller who, now that I think about it, may have been a scalper. I don't know. I don't know the seller well enough. They clearly had some very interesting premium stuff, and it was the seller that I got this from, that Fritz Lang set, which is not out of print, but it's a rarity. And they had it. They weren't really selling scalper prices. It was like slightly better than retail prices on rare items, basically.
Right.
My pre-order price on Evergarden would have been slightly more than the pre-order price had I got it from Funimation. About $5 more, but still 15 or so less than SRP. But they out of stocked me. So apparently everyone oversold that set except maybe Funimation.
And just as a heads up, a thank you to Animes and Collectors Inc. for giving me the heads up. If for some reason I do get my copy from Best Buy, it'll be thanks to y'all. If not, it's my own fault for not acting fast enough. But I just want to make sure that I give them a shout out if they're listening. As a
there's no way of knowing. We said this a lot about steel books, but like,
you
for
never
example,
know. Yeah.
Like, with Sentai, for example, who would have known that Made in Abyss premium set would sell out almost on release?
Let's move on to Mo. Reseller versus scalper. Is there a difference in your mind?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, scalpers tend to be people who buy up a high demand item and immediately jack it up for like exorbitant prices, to the point where they can make maximum profit off of it from desperate people. Resellers, I've always kind of put in a different category, because especially with video games, I know several people that do it. They go around, they might clean out the local thrift store and they might sell the stuff marked up, but it's not typically the type of markup you see from a straight up scalper that's just totally unscrupulous about it, not trying to make it like a a thriving
fair
business.
market value.
Right. That's kind of what most resellers tend to do. And like when I've bought stuff off of people in our movie group here, it's fair. You know, sure, I might have paid Dustin like a couple of bucks more than what I would have bought Shin Godzilla for on eBay, but it was going to a friend. I didn't mind it, and it wasn't like a greedy markup, you know. I think there is a difference between those of us. I mean, I don't have a ton of experience reselling stuff out of my collection, but I have done it. I think it's kind of just something you eventually do if you collect things, you know. And that's a little different than somebody who, say, like goes around doing it as a business. And I think they get a little more hate than they deserve a lot of the time in comparison to like, it's like on par with the scalpers and like video game groups and stuff. Used to be, they would just boot people that were reselling out of the groups. And I never agreed with that shit. Cause it's like, well, dude, they're just making a little profit. And a lot of the time from them is how we end up getting the stuff. You know, sure, you didn't find it at the thrift store, but something you ordered from a reseller on eBay, you didn't find that at the thrift store either, you know. So it's just kind of part of the racket. It's part of the whole hobby is people that resell things. Scalping is pretty scummy, you know.
Can y'all see that? I added the give me the ability to add like the latest comment on
That's
the
dope.
screen.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the comment from Animazing, and yes, manga is another anime manga. Every place has some scalping to it, and I love being able to get at it from different areas. And everybody here has a different area they've seen scalping at least one area or another. But let's get to Dave, because Dave was the only one on here who said scalpers and resellers, there's no difference. Tell us why.
The reason why is well, there is a little difference, only in the bare minimum of people who resell and resell it for under the going price rate for it in the marketplace. If you're buying something that was like $10 and you're selling it for $5, okay, you're a reseller. Okay, if you buy something for retail value of $10 and market $50, you're a scalper. I don't care who you are. If you market any even $2 over, you're a scalper.
I tend to disagree, man, because I mean it's like they went through the effort to get the thing. We didn't have to go to the you know, half price books and grab it or whatever. So a couple of bucks towards them is fine.
Yeah, one click, one finger click. Who the hell cares? You bought it, it was sent. You know, I mean, I can understand. I can understand like $3 for shipping, but I don't know. Unless the thing is out of print, I'd rather buy it for the exact price it was bought for.
Well, what about like say people like say GameStop or Second and Charles or Goodwill or places like that, places that buy used media and then sell Goodwill it for a higher amount.
I worked for Goodwill at one point in time, and guess what? They have their own eBay.
Oh yeah,
they actually have people who go and look at everything that comes in, whether it be movie or anything like that, and they actually have gotten smarter over time. And if something is selling for $50, of course they'll market that. So so if you're looking to buy something at Goodwill, good luck. So.
So you're saying basically if it's a used market, if it's above the original retail price, no matter who it is used, it's a scalper if they're selling above the retail price.
Well, yeah, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, okay?
Well, where I take issue with that take is simply in the idea that someone shouldn't be allowed to profit at all from acquiring the item. I mean, we're not paying what they paid for it at Second and Charles.
You don't own the shit to begin with. None of us own it because it's copyrighted. So how the hell can you make profit? you know?
It's an item. You know what I mean? It's a fucking item, dude. They're not selling the media. They're selling you the disc, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't mind if they're making a profit. When they're marking it up 500% or some shit, that's,
Right.
you know, that I take issue with. Someone buying something for $10 and selling it online for 15 or whatever so they can make a little profit and do that sustainably. I don't take issue with it. More often than not, it's like a convenience factor. Yeah, could I have found it cheaper if I stumbled on it at the thrift store myself? Probably. But I'd rather sit here and smoke weed and fucking order it on eBay.
And actually, you mentioned eBay. It's interesting. I very recently got a movie off of eBay that's kind of a rarity. It tends to be never available for less than 20. And I actually ordered it from Goodwill, and I think I paid about $7. So that was kind of cool. But eBay is interesting because it's a lot of it is auctions. And when you get into auctions, that's free selling, but the ultimate price is decided more by the people who are doing the bidding. So, like, would you say in that instance, if you set the auction at, say, $2 under the going rate and it ends up selling for 50 over the rate, would you still say that's scalping?
I would say it depends, at least on that stuff, because listening to Mo just a little bit, if it's a little bit of a markup, it's not too bad.
Right.
But if it goes like $10 over the marking price, then you're getting into scalper territory, you know?
I tend to think personally, what's that?
There was a comment on here, and then we'll get to Dane real quick.
Oh, yeah.
But there's you know, and then animating is like, you know, that they agree with the idea of having some markup, but because they need to make a little bit of money, especially if you're running a store based off of that.
Yeah.
But not yet. As you said, not like for $500 or more over the price. Yeah, exactly. There's markup, and then there's like the PlayStation 5 where they're selling it for $1,000 now, instead of like the 500.
Dude in the group got one for 1,500.
Dane was going to say something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Dane.
You mentioned eBay. Sorry, I had to. Well, I got knocked off from my phone. I tried to get back on, and the connection was bad, so I switched over to my computer, got that all set up, and then I had a certain special guest star show up. But anyway, with eBay, you mentioned eBay. I recently was trying to get all of Kevin Smith's films in the collection, and I was kind of impressed with how many of his films are out of print now, in some form or fashion, and that introduces a interesting dilemma, which is out of print media, where the print media can be kind of exorbitant depending on what it is. And then, like in the case of a Serbian film, like the totally uncut version of the film, which I mentioned in the group chat, finally coming out in the US on Blu-ray for the first time early next year. And so that made that totally uncut DVD that I bought, which was the only way I could find the totally uncut version. That one I bought for like $80 maybe a year or two ago, which is like the most expensive DVD I've ever bought. But then with the re-release DVD and with the Blu-ray and all that stuff, that makes that price, the worth of it, go down. And so I sold it recently for like $25, which for a DVD is still pretty darn good. It just, obviously it wasn't what I paid for it, but at the same time, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, there has to be a certain degree of money that you're willing to lose for the simple reason that you don't know if that title is ever going to be back in print again in your country, because things are just so precarious these days. And, especially with like the Kevin Smith films like Clerks, Chasing Amy, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, those ones went back into print once the Miramax catalog got put out by Paramount. But again, something like Dogma that was supposed to be put out by Miramax, and the whole big controversy sold it to Lionsgate, and then the home video release was put out by like Columbia TriStar and then Sony Pictures for the Blu-ray. All the way back in 2008. They didn't put it back into print, and that one was rather pricey. I got like the Canadian release of it, but it's like that's a whole other thing, is like the fluctuating prices of stuff that goes out of print, and like, yeah, it's out of print, but you know, how much does it go for, and how much does that get marked up, despite it being out of print? Because just being out of print doesn't necessarily mean something's good. It could just be that something just has a limited print run, and so you're like, well, you know, is this really a good deal? Is it worth paying this much for it? All that stuff. Now, in the case of Dogma, it was worth it because that's my favorite of Kevin Smith's films, and it's a really darn good film. But it also is like, well, if that was just any old, you know, B-movie horror film that Scream Factory put out once and then they didn't put it out again, it's like, well, that wouldn't be worth it. But you can get into all kinds of like fluctuating price points and people who are exploiting the fact that it's out of print versus people that want to be reasonable. I try to be reasonable whenever I sell stuff that's out of print, if I do sell stuff that's out of print, but you know, that's a whole other kettle of fish.
I think
And
it's
Scalpers. Oh, go ahead, Mo. Go for it.
Oh, well, no, I was just going to say, I think that that's one area where occasionally people that might even be reasonable resellers kind of mimic scalper behavior with the out of print stuff sometimes. You kind of saw it with the Zatoichi shit, where it was like, when that first went out of print, I was like, all right, you know, I can get it. And then like in a month, those same people had all marked it up to like $500, you know? So, and they were reasonably priced before. So it means that they realized, oh shit, this is out of print now. We can charge an exorbitant amount for it. And people that really want it, because it's important, and it's definitely, I mean, even at 500, it's 25 friggin' movies in there, man. All historical. I mean, they're must have for like a full-fledged samurai collection. So I was considering
more than that.
Like some of the
he got them all on individuals.
Right, I think it costs like $1,000 to do that now.
Some of the items you see offered for those kind of prices, it's like, are you kidding me?
I think the main issue with resellers, where they do have an impact on collecting as a whole, is not even necessarily individually their fault. It's to do with the people that mark something up a little bit like exorbitantly, and then that becomes the trending price for it. So when someone gets it, they look it up and they say, okay, like this is going for this on eBay because there's all these other people that are selling it for that. And there's people that are willing to pay that. And then before you know it, 10 years down the road, you got $1,000 fucking NES game in Little Samson that is by no means hard to find. You know, it seems like every other YouTuber grabbed a copy inside of a year when that shit was going on. And it becomes a status symbol, you know, to pay that much money for the damn game.
Well, that's probably much more the exception than the rule, though. I think in most cases, for example, I've done a lot of eBay selling, and I have found that if you even try to go at what might be the going rate, in most cases, you're going to have trouble selling the item. You usually do have to either set an auction and leave it to chance, or you have to set the price a little bit low. Sometimes when you have something that's seriously hard to get and in high demand, you have the chance to do what you want to do. Like, for example, Violet Evergarden, or with that Gamera set that you're after, you know, those people have a lot of leeway to do what they want to do. Although Animazing makes a good point, I don't think marking up 500 would fly with those right now. You got like that one joker who's got the 2 parts of Katana Gatari for what, 1,500?
Yeah, I watched that for a long time.
He's never going to sell that.
I can't remember whether he sold it or he just gave up, but it has disappeared finally.
Oh, it has?
Or the guy who was trying to sell Volume 8 of Maison Ikoku for like $10,000. It's like you gotta understand what the people want. Like taking this video game console, they know they've got a limited run, and they understand human psychology. The
Mhm.
scalpers know. First off, they create a shortage, and if you'd
Right.
watch Jingle All the Way Part 2, you get the basics of it
Yeah.
because the guy
That-
bought up
that-
all of them and created a shortage, and then it becomes super valuable when they did
Right.
necessarily.
This PS5
That
review
rich-
kind of reminds me
that
of
rich
the
mythos of
NES.
Jingle All the Way.
Yes, it truly is.
But yeah, when it comes down to it, what Brandon's talking about is more what I think of. Like when I think scalping, I think generally not just people jacking up the price, but people actually going out of their way to pre-order multiple copies to then turn around and sell when there's a shortage. I mean, they are creating the shortage
Yeah.
and profiting off of that. And that is the
Yeah.
purest form of scalper behavior, I think. And that's what I think is an absolute reprehensible practice.
For sure. I mean, that's
if you pick up an extra copy to make a profit on, that's
Or to make what
so
you
bad, but
did
it's
back,
different.
yeah.
But yeah, like to maybe sell it even. But like if you're like, I'm pretty sure that happened with Evergarden. I'm pretty sure that happened with Gamera. I'm pretty sure that happened. What was some of the other stuff recently that we saw? Well, Made in Abyss, you know,
Well,
some
the
of this
last
stuff.
the last
Yeah.
system that I remember was Classic NES.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
That was shenanigan.
So
that's
which one's
where the
that
scalpers. Oh, good.
out of curiosity, just to ask again, so what's BS Sound Amazing? I wasn't quite sure maybe there was a lot of stuff flying. Earthbound, yes, a good example of that. But Earthbound is one, and I'm
Yeah.
sure Mo would agree with me that sold in an awkward way, a really awkward way, because they sold that bundled with the strategy guide, and they marketed it like crap.
And some scratch and
So-
sniff stickers, if I remember
Quite
right.
literally like that.
and nobody bought it, and so eventually you ended up with these with a very few, and getting a good whole copy of Earthbound today, that's Mo, you'd mow more than I would.
It's like
but-
$120 solid most of the time. Like you're going to pay 120 bucks, sometimes upward of 200 depending on how it's trending. I think the Earthbound thing kind of sort of started trending downward a little bit for a while because a lot of people had it, but I don't know what's going on with that anymore. I gave away a copy of Earthbound just to like rub it in people's faces because it used to be a $10 fucking nobody wanted it, you know? And that's kind of illustrates really good what I was talking about with Little Samson. Like what happened with Earthbound is it got popular, and around that time those resellers that were reasonable before started being like, hey, I can mark this up, you know, I could buy a copy, sell it for $100. And then the desperate guys out there that wanted it so that they could put a picture on social media started paying that for it, and then that became the standard price for Earthbound. Same thing with Little Samson. Most video games suffers from that shit like crazy on some things, where it's like that was a Flintstones game, you know. Go ahead.
Any game from any of the Nintendo cartridge-based systems, you know, prior to the DS, like the ones that came in the cardboard boxes, like, you know, good luck finding those complete in the box with the box and the manual and all that stuff, just because you know the shipping those games in those cardboard is the cardboard boxes, it's like that's just not a winning combination for the sake of preserving
I used to just rip them open, dude. Like I would rip it open like a fucking Christmas present. I didn't care about the box because it had no protective value for the game, you know. Thinking back on it, it's like shit. I could have made a fortune reselling those boxes. Now I should have held on to them.
Well, it's a little bit like a more extreme example of like how the slipcovers for movies, how those, depending on what they are, they can have a lot of value, and then other times you can find them
it's
for really
ridiculous
cheap.
on some of it too. Where I forget which one it is, but it's like a double pack of movies that are like $2 movies on their own. But to get the slipcover, is like
Mhm.
is like $60 or $70 or something like that.
Well, slip
Yeah,
cover
like,
market
yeah.
has gotten huge.
All it is the
lately.
thing that holds the two individual releases together. It's just a
Right.
piece of cardboard. You know?
Yeah, well, I think it really depends
But they
because,
look
like,
cool.
they do look cool. I mean, in my estimation, like, if I could, looking at my collection, if I could have slips for every one of my movies, I would.
Mhm.
And just because it gives them that extra bit of authority, because usually when they ship them with slip covers, it usually means this isn't just your run of the mill thing. This is like serious. So that's the
Lord,
that's the psychological kind of impact that they're trying to give to the purchaser. But you know, I think also when they go the extra mile and they make them lenticular, or they make them a different artwork than the main cover, or
Mhm.
some other something to make it special, then that's when they get really collectible.
Or when
Um,
like the outer and inner covers relate to each other somehow or whatever.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I like
or
it when
like
they do
Yeah.
something with it.
Walmart did that with those special slips for like Guardians of the Galaxy and for The Force Awakens. Like they had unique slips that you could collect, and they did that with the Deadpool slips
Yes.
for the
I got a
various.
couple of those.
Oh, I have all of the slips, all the Deadpool slips, just
very
because. Well, it was the best scam on earth because what I did was, it really was because what I did was, a lot of the movies I already had,
Mhm.
but I didn't have the slips for them. But some of them I didn't have. But for the ones that I had already, I bought them all. But then I took the slips off and I returned them to Walmart because the receipt doesn't say anything, and the Walmart employees don't know. They're Walmart employees. They don't know anything. So I got them for free, basically. And it's like, well, why not? And I've done that a couple times, not just with the Deadpool ones, but like if
I didn't
there's a
even think
slip,
about that.
well, if there's a slip that I really want or whatever, sometimes I'll buy the movie again and I'll take
Yeah.
the slip off and then I'll return it because it's unopened. So it's like they don't care.
Yeah, that's fair.
If
You're not
Walmart
really
screw 'em.
you're
Well,
not hurting anyone. It's just a little bit of cardboard, and it's like obviously not out of print yet, so it's not like you're
yeah.
ganking it from
Yeah,
Well,
anyone.
they don't
I've
know
done
about the
that with like
slipcover market.
Best Buy also. Best Buy, they won't let you just have the slip, but they'll let you buy the movie and then return it without it.
Mhm.
Because again, they don't care. Then like another store around here, Manifest Discs, they'll, if it's a pre-owned thing, they'll let me keep the slips just for free because it's used. They don't care. And but I think they might be having some serious financial trouble because of the pandemic having hit them hard. Because they aren't taking any they aren't taking any used items in. And so it's like, well, their used stock isn't really getting replenished, and so it's just kind of sitting there, and it's like, well, gee, I don't know how much longer they have. Which is too bad. They're owned by FYE, and FYE, there's one up at the mall, and they have a waiting period for taking used items, and then most of the time they give you just a few cents for them, even with a membership, which they didn't used to do, if they take them at all. And so it's like, geez, the talk about, because that was the other aspect of reselling, is either reselling it for cash, or if you do trade-in credit, which sometimes, depending on the store, depending on how much you trade in, sometimes you can get more in the way of trade-in credit. But like the only people in my area anyway that are doing that at all competitively or at all fairly are Second and Charles, and they're the only ones that I really go to now because they're the only ones that are really willing to play ball. And
even with them, they don't exactly give you a lot.
no, they don't. But like the more that you give them, the more you get in trading credit, and especially if you do a mixture of movies and games and books and stuff, it's usually they tend to reward that variety. And so I mean that's a different kind of reselling, but it's for credit.
That's more of like, it's an in-store credit hustle. You're in reality, you're also helping people that might come in there hunting for stuff to find shit. Because you traded stuff into the store.
And just to, by the way, to address the comments made, of course, yes, Sega CD is definitely blowing up.
Saturn
I think
was
we've
for a while
covered
too.
I think we've covered the comment on the slipcovers, but yeah, with these stores, these stores right now, we're not just talking reselling as a means of like just making extra money. We're talking reselling as means to keep physical media selling
There's that
alive when
too.
you're talking about the brick and mortar stores, especially with those stores like Second Charles and so on.
Yeah, they basically have to be resellers. I mean, you go to like your local retro shop, they're gonna mark it up. If you can find it like within $5 of price charting, that's a good deal, you know, because they got to make something on it too, and they probably gave some kid like, you know, shitty trade-in credit for it, and then are selling it now for like a $5 markup. $3 to $5 seems to be the average at our retro shop, and that's fine. You know, I think we're the basically the reason each of them get hate is because scalpers drive up the demand and they take advantage of people's feeling of missing out or really want those holiday gifts to make an exorbitant amount of money. Resellers tend to get the hate because there's this impression that it's solely them that drives up the market value of a lot of these items. I see it all the time in the gaming groups where it's like, yeah, resellers are the reason that this game, resellers and YouTube stars are the reason that this game
I
went
was
up.
gonna
And
say
it's like,
YouTube stars like Radical Reggie and Metal Jesus Rocks are two that get targeted a lot. People get a lot of hate on them.
yeah, it's
For
like
doing their hidden gem
nobody's
videos.
fucking holding a gun to your head and making you pay $200 for Rule the fucking Rose on PS2, man. I mean, it's people buying the shit is what makes the prices feasible. And then nobody that buys something for $2 at a yard sale doesn't mark it up when they resell it. I mean, I don't care how you know virtuistic you want to seem about it. Most people, when they resell items, they go and they look at eBay sold listings. I mean, it's unless you're yard selling the shit and just trying to get it out of your house. You know?
But you mentioned the YouTubers or whatever. Like, think about all of those NES games that the Angry Video Game Nerd reviewed. That maybe like he had the price sticker on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for like 25 cents or whatever. Nowadays, but nowadays, because of how infamous it has become in his videos, nowadays it costs more because people want it. And same with all the other games he reviewed, and same with like I think the title Hercules Legendary Journey. No, sorry, not that one. Herc's
in New
Adventure.
York.
No, Herc's Adventure, the LucasArts game for PS1 that JonTron reviewed when he did all the Hercules games. Like that one, I think was not necessarily a common title before, but then afterward, then it became in high demand because people remembered how good that review was and how funny it was and everything. And I know it sure made me want to, you know, play it. And so, I mean, let's not forget the fact that demand for an item, if it's a movie or a game or whatever, demand for it can go up after the fact for reasons that have nothing to do with the initial appeal of it. It can be due to something else. I mean, you know, let's not forget that, you know, Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley, like that had a life before the internet, but then as soon as the internet did what it did with things and resurrected it, then it was like, oh man, whole second life right there. So the demand for things can just change on a dime.
Well, and like with particularly with blaming the YouTube people for the shit, I've always found that silly because if you watch the stuff, it always it shoots up for a minute and then it goes down and then it plateaus again. Like it's never permanent with that. Whereas when whereas when people, honestly, I think it's more harmful when it's just people that make the item trend as opposed to like a brief flash in the pan thing like that. Because then you get a game like Earthbound that goes up to a stupid price and kind of stays there, or Little Samson, you know, because people are out there paying it, you know.
I do think in some cases you do have, when you get these things going on, it can be a benefit, but it depends on the medium. A good example, when you've got a video game like, say, Little Samson or something like that, the likelihood of it coming back into print is
Zero.
Not
just
zero these days, but next to zero, because you still do have places like limited run games.
Yeah, but getting it on an
Places like
NES
that.
cart is, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, you're totally right there. You could get a re-release of it, and that's becoming more and more popular, which is awesome.
Okay.
And movies have done that all the time. If you start driving up demand for a movie, the studio sometimes takes notice and does a re-release. Anime is a good example of this as well. And I'll tell you, there's two things that bother me with anime these days. Well, one bothers me and one gives me more hope. The thing that bothers me is that there are a lot of titles that go out of print a lot more quickly these days than they used to. Like I'll turn around and think I've got something that's common, and then I realize that wait, no, now they're charging $100 for it. But then again, there are also a lot of these older titles, and there are people who are banking on it and looking at people who are driving up the demand and vocalization for these types of titles that will re-release. A good example for that, look at Lupin the Third. A good example for that. Lupin the Third had been kind of relegated to obscurity for a long time. Cartoon Network kind of brought it back, but then something hit that got it more popular in the scene, and now you've got the third season, which has never been released in the United States, finally getting released sometime in 2021, 2022, and that's a huge thing. It's but it's amazing how these things can happen. In movies, it's a lot more common.
Well, and let's not forget the horror story, at least for me. Let's not forget the horror story that happened earlier this year with the kind of artificial scarcity of Gone with the Wind, which thankfully I think that scarcity I think has calmed down now.
Oh yeah, now
put it
Walmart's got
back
them
up
like
onto HBO Max or whatever. But it's
Well, okay. Well, here's an
have a hard
example.
time getting rid of them now. But
Here's an example
Go ahead.
of what we're talking about. We keep referencing this Valid Evergarden set. Retail price was supposed to be $85. Average pre-sale price was around $65 to $69. There are 3 copies on eBay right now. The lowest price is $390. The highest is $400.
Yeah, they scalped them for sure. They bought them and put them up there.
doubt.
You know? And see, the thing is, the important distinction to make here is that reselling is a natural part of the hobbies. It's a natural part of the communities that spring up around collecting stuff. It's always happened with comic books, with trading cards, action figures, movies, anything you can think of. There's always been a reseller market for it. It's awesome. If it wasn't for those dudes, we wouldn't have conventions. We wouldn't have a lot of the brick and mortar stores that we go to. We wouldn't have a lot of the availability on sites like eBay for some of these harder to find items that the chances of you just stumbling across it at your local dusty ass thrift store is probably pretty slim, but some other dude's done it for you, marked it up reasonably and put it on there. Scalping only exists because of FOMO, man. That's it. Like that's the reason that it's there, is because people need that PlayStation 5. And so they're willing to pay $1,000, $1,500 like a fucking idiot to get it. And this in it, you know, it's easy for all of us that don't participate in that to say not to do it. For them, I don't think they feel they have a choice, and that's unfortunate psychological thing going on there.
So the
by the way,
set, the Gamera set, what was the pre-order on the Gamera was what, about 160, 170?
It was 125.
Was it 125? Okay,
that might have been Godzilla, though. I could be confused on him.
That was the Godzilla was 125. The cheapest the Gamera set currently is listed at 255, and the most expensive one I'm seeing right now is listed at 475.
Jesus Christ, that's ridiculous. But
that's
two and change is not that bad.
Yeah,
you know, that's like somewhat reasonable for the set. You know.
Yeah, I agree with Animazing on that.
Yeah, Sentai is one of those where they have amazing sales. So a lot of times people will wait and thinking they're going to get a really good price, but then the title goes out of print. And then you're not getting any type of amazing price for that after that. It goes. Another is a good example of one like that. I thought it was still in print. And Angel Beats, but Angel Beats, we had a heads up about that. But
I still can't believe Angel Beats is that much. Holy crap! I probably got it for $100
now. So. Yeah, and it's an amazing series.
Yeah.
So you're saying $100 Chunibyo Limited is going major crazy. Yeah, I agree
Oh,
with that.
yeah.
The first Chunibyo set is like
That first one was like the first limited set they did. It's so out of print, it's not even funny.
but before we go too far, I want to say, as a public service announcement, to those of you who are actually listening to this, who are thinking of dealing with scalpers because you want to have your kid have a PS5 or Series X for Christmas, give your kid a rain check on that bad boy. Yes, you're teaching them a lesson that it's better to wait. Yes, they're not going to be happy about it, but one, you're teaching them a lesson, and two, by April, you're going to get that. They're going to be in any store by that point.
And they'll have the issues fixed, more games. I mean, it's just going to be better off for you. If you buy it from a scalper, you lose the right to ever complain about it again. I'll just be the one to say that.
Yeah. Or how about this? You give them a book.
There you go.
That'll make you popular
for PS5.
do a compromise. Yeah, make it a video game related book.
There you go.
You could do like the book Ready Player One. You know, that's a compromise right there.
Well, I think.
I'm looking forward.
I mean, what are they? You're just gonna make the fucking kid cry, anyways. I think the only game out for it is the Dark Souls remaster right now, and like Cyberpunk. That might be fun, but Dark Souls is just gonna punish their ass.
Well, and then guess what? Then the kid has to deal with all of the people that I've relatively recently come into contact with, the as they are known, the PC master race people, meaning that if you're not willing to drop thousands of dollars on this high-end gaming PC, then you're not a real gamer and all that shit. And like, who needs consoles anymore? Just get the PC version so you can mod it and blah blah blah. And it's like, you know, there's a reason why they're called PC Master Race. It's because they are about as elitist as they could be. You know.
And they're getting scalper issues too, though, because the newest graphics card out there.
Okay,
it's like it's sold out, and it's just like you can't get one, but like for thousands right now. That's for like a graphics card.
Just to do a quick tie back to Animazing's comment about Sentai, I'm still playing on eBay here. Monster Musume, Everyday Life with Monster Girls, that limited set that sold out so fast it's not even funny. I see one copy listed for $800 and one copy listed for $1,000.
Good Lord!
It's like, holy crap!
Well, I hope they don't sell.
I got the standard edition for $18. I'm going to stick with that.
One thing I will say that I do think that we should look at when we're talking about this debate is I do feel like all of these assholes, and I'm sorry, but if you're a scalper and you're doing this, you're creating artificial shortages, you're an asshole.
To be fair, you know it though. So
they already know it. So unless you're in that UK group that says, well, we're doing something that's putting food on the table of our workers that are helping us out. I'm like,
so are drug dealers and sex traffickers, though. That doesn't make them good people. Fucking, I'm not saying that scalping the PlayStation is on the same level as that, but it's like, come on, man. You know, everyone's got to eat.
Snake oil salesman, you know.
But the thing I worry about, and what you were talking about, all of y'all were thinking about, is the confusion of saying that they are the same. Is that you get a lot of anger at these scalpers, and then people go after the resellers, and they start going after places that are making their living by just doing a minor markup,
right,
and putting them in that same boat. And that's the reason why I think this is an important discussion. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dan. I just wanted to make sure I put that point out there, because that point, I think, is one of the most important points made for them.
Well, it's basically with the scalping thing and the creating the artificial demand. I can't help but think of like Chinatown. You know, you see Mr. Gitz, either you bring the water to LA or you bring LA to the water, and it's like, I can't help but think of that basic thing, just like snatching
Yeah.
land or snatching this and that. It's the same exact thing. But yeah, I think, well, I'm looking at see, if I buy something that's like out of print or is hard to find or
Mhm.
whatever, like probably the most expensive thing I bought was the buying back that Halloween set,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I was so ashamed that I got rid of in the first place, but I had no choice. But I got it back, and to be fair, like I got some of my money back by selling off the previous Halloween releases in like a big bundle for maybe like, let's say that I spent like roughly 300 on getting that set back, but I sold the previous ones, the previous like singular editions of them for like maybe 100 or so, and so
There
it
you
was
go.
like, so I got like a
Yeah.
third of my money back, so it wasn't like too horrible. But I'll try to do stuff like that where I'll try to offset it with some other thing that I can sell, or some other, selling the old version or whatever. I do try to do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, for scalping, it's like, yeah, creating an artificial demand is just an assholish thing to do, and I think everybody understands that. It's just for your own sense of morality. Like, is it enough for you to not do it? And for the people who do it, obviously, there's not enough of an incentive to not do it because people want to make a quick buck.
I think with the
Well,
scalping,
and we do.
oh, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say we do have scalping laws in the United States, but the thing is, when they're thinking scalping, they're not thinking scalping as it is today. The scalping laws are simply like you can't sell like sports tickets
Yeah.
within X number of feet from the
Can't be out
arena.
there selling fake Aussie shirts in front of the fucking
Yeah.
show.
Right.
It's like, but how many people are selling like a marked up PS5 like 5 feet from the entrance of a GameStop? It's just
Well,
like
Yeah.
what's funny about the T-shirt thing is I actually have bought quite a few concert
Oh, yeah.
T-shirts
Oh,
that
yeah.
were outside of the venue.
Bought quite a few tickets too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
bought tickets
which-
once. Yeah.
Now I know with tickets it's a little different because, like, let's say, because I used to do marketing for the Blumenthal Performing Arts Center, and we had our own internal ticket database, and so we could tell when things we had a good system of vigilance for when tickets were being sold at prices that were like above the normal sale price, because we had ways of finding that out and ways of kind of targeting people that were doing that sort of stuff. So I mean, with those tickets, there are ways to track people down that are doing stuff like that. With
Maybe, unless they're doing it old school fucking like Carnival Barker style outside the show and then just
Yeah.
bailing when the bicycle cops come around. I mean, like, I would see that a lot going to metal shows. People would buy tickets to like Ozfest, for the retail price, then stand out there when they knew the show was going to be sold out and sell them for like 3 times the amount,
Well, and you're saying like doing it like physically at the venue, which makes sense. And I think I'm trying to think if not that I know of, I don't think we had people that were necessarily like that, but also
you want to see that play, kid?
Well, but yeah, like it's not in as nearly as much of a demand as like it's not in nearly as much of a demand as like Ozfest, but also I think we had more security detail that would put a stop to that kind of stuff if that were to be done. But it's different with inanimate objects like a Blu-ray or a game or something like that. I do think that the current PS5 and Xbox Series X hysteria is kind of amusing in and of itself. It's like we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are concerned about that, and yet they're not wearing their masks and all that stuff.
I mean, I've seen a lot of definitely masked up motherfuckers like worrying about the PlayStation 5 too. I think people just need a win right now, so I can give them some type of a pass of my normal heckling that I would do during this shit. Because I would typically be a lot more merciless about this and and maybe make a lot of jokes at their expense on the internet. But this year, I get it. It's like, people want it. At the same time, though, scalping is temporary. Those prices, are only going to exist. Yeah, they're only going to exist while the demand exists. Whereas with
once the factories catch up, it's going to be done.
Well, and also just a real quick, as far as, again, an example of kind of bringing the different ideas together, I guess you could say. I am looking at a bunch of stuff here. Dane, you'll be thrilled to know that I am seeing a Pain and Gain steelbook listed among these other things, currently for a $5 bid.
Really?
This is a reseller that does a lot of anime and some other fun stuff, and typically starts things pretty cheap. And they have a copy of Angel Beats currently at $112.
Hey, Mike.
With 2 days to go, but their starting price was like $1. So that was all on demand. That was all on the people who were bidding on it that drove it up to that crazy price. And there's still 2 days left. It's like,
well, I think where the resellers
Merry
get the
Christmas to you as well, Michael McNally.
Yeah, and to you, Animazing. I don't know if that's Roger or who, but whoever you are.
Yeah,
we love
whoever
you.
we got talking to us.
Yeah.
It is a good show. I am very happy I got it when I did.
I think
it's the gift that keeps on giving. Sorry, Mo.
No worries, man. I'll have to experience it one day. I like the name.
That's
probably
interesting.
Cry at the end.
Interesting that you found a Pain and Gain steelbook, because I would have sworn I would have known about that. But then again, I got one for you better. I got the special collector's edition with the the phony protein powder looking slipcover and everything that has the massive bicep and everything. Which
it's a region B. It's a region B import. That's it.
The Gain is no good unless you watch Pain and Glory with it.
Well, the one that I have is pretty rare because it has a red case. It's got that slipcover, which is super hard to find now, and that particular edition of the movie in general is really hard to find. And it is the only release, at least in the U.S., that actually came with some special features, because the original release did not come with special features. And I was like, wow, that's awful, because out of all the Michael Bay movies out there, that's the one that I would love to dive into the filmmaking of it the most, because it was one of his lower budgeted ones, but it also, I think, had some more innovative camera work. And you do get to see some of that in the version that I have. I just was hoping for more, because I was like, damn, when you don't have quite as many millions of dollars to solve the problem with, that just throws some money at it, then it's like, hey, you have to be pretty creative with how you solve this problem. And I wanted them to dive into that the most, but better that than the original release, which had nothing. But
yeah. Well, I mean, now another aspect of this, and that I wanted to put out there is the bots. Now, bots are something that we've been hearing about early on. They're not new, but they are getting sneakier and sneakier. And I mean, because of these bots, bots are like these programmable things that act like different buyers in order to get past the X number per. It's been used a lot during the initial you remember when the C virus was first released by Umbrella Corp, and we had to go in, and they had all the toilet paper and all that stuff, but a lot of supplies were bought up by bots. And now we have the same thing.
Or they were bought up. Or they were bought up by me because I had a giant box of 96 rolls of toilet paper right as the big shortage was hitting.
See, you were prepared. Now the
Hey, by the time people needed it, I was like a fucking drug dealer because I had all the toilet paper.
Yeah, I knew several people that switched over to the bidet game, and it's like I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet.
But see, that's another scalper. That was another scalper thing.
Yeah.
The difference, though, between what we're talking about and what they're talking about is that those people, and those are even worse than those other people, because those people ended up paying for it at the end when they tried to come back and resell it for a marked up value, and they got caught. Many of them either went to jail or paid huge fines because that type of scalping gets very, very bad attention from people.
Oh
But
yeah.
the bots
Well, I mean,
in this particular case,
the
I mean,
panic buying in
45,000. I mean,
general.
4,500 PS5. So, yeah. But yeah, the bots they like thousands of individual orders. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Walmart actually did something recently where they were able to figure out how to counteract it, and they were able to cancel some of the sales because these bots were doing. There's like a UK place that was bragging that they got 4,500 PS5s.
Yeah, I mean, and Roger points out there that like bots should be banned, and I agree that to a point. There are some legitimate uses for them for like businesses for putting in orders for supplies when they need them, yada yada. But unless it's a commercial bot, it shouldn't be allowed. Like they should have a way to determine the difference and shut down private citizens that are in there like using them to do shit like that. I think an important thing to point out here is that all scalpers are scumbags. By and large, most resellers aren't. They get a lot of their bad rap from the super opportunistic ones. Like, for example, a reseller selling the Gamera set for $100 markup now that it's out of print isn't that bad to me. The dude who is selling it for like $400 should go fuck himself. Like there's the differentiation between the two types. The dude selling it for $100 markup now that it's out of print, that's not that unreasonable for a set that costs that much in my mind, and how nice of a set it is. 400 is exorbitant, and those are the people who give the resellers the bad rap, and the ones that do it in bulk, where they go into a thrift store and they clean it out of like every video game in the place, not even leaving scraps for the next dude, just so that they could sell them all marked up. That's kind of, I don't think scummy on the same level as like straight up scalping shit, but it is a little bit like rude,
Right.
It's and Mo, I mean not Mo, Dave, I haven't heard much from you lately on it. Do you have anything to say on the conversation?
I've been just letting you guys go at it for a little bit because it's hard for me to jump in, but see, me, I have a little bit of a different standpoint on everything, and my buying, my way of buying has changed over time. I mean, I originally thought that I would never pay anything more than $50 for a single DVD or Blu-ray. I originally thought on any kind of a box set I wouldn't pay over $100.
That went out the window a long time.
Like when the Gamera set, all that shit came out. But see, I have a little bit of a dilemma with paying anything more than $50 beyond the original selling price on like individual box sets or things of that nature. I do not see. I do. I think that's why I get along with the main seller that I buy from, and he's a private seller. Some of you guys know him, and he's always sold to me for the exact price that he bought them for. And I like that in a business sense. And I will not try to differ from my buying choices that way. In fact, me, if I buy anything, I don't buy from Amazon. I don't buy from a VS straight out. I don't buy from Shelf Factory straight out. If a seller, a private seller, actually has it for a reasonable price, or if I come across it in Walmart, I'll pick it up for $10 or something like that. I will not go out of my way to go to these places because I understand some people are Shelf Factory enthusiasts, like some of you, but I will not buy it just because everyone else is buying it. You know, I'll wait until it's a regular a decent price instead of buying it at market price.
Well, I usually wait for stuff to go down on sale too, so I understand.
Yeah.
It is a game of it is a
as far as the market for slip covers, fuck you people.
Hey, it's that's where taste comes into play, right? Like I don't get it either, man, at all. Like I don't keep them unless it's different than the actual cover. I fucking throw them away, you know. But I get it that there's people like collecting it. I guess it factors into different areas of collecting I don't understand, and other hobbies like the CIB shit for Nintendo games that Dane was talking about. I like the artwork. I'm not gonna pay that for a cardboard box though. That's not my bag. I get it, but
yeah, like
everybody has that difference.
I like it when there's a slipcover. I hate it when I get one that's all dinged up and nasty looking.
And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna pay the price of a movie for a slipcover.
No, I'm not doing
my bag.
My cat's actually my cat's slipcover is torn all to heck, but I actually think that's a good thing. That reflects the state of that film, so it makes it perfect.
Unless it's the butthole cut, it doesn't matter anyways. So
yeah, true enough.
I don't know.
See, like the slipcovers, like I'm a big fan of collecting the slipcovers, but it's mostly like if I can find a copy of the movie that has the slipcover on already, then obviously that's my go-to. And I have certain sellers that, like for example, like there's the Canadian seller that I love so much, JDC Outlet, where his eBay store, he'll actually explicitly tell you if it comes with the slipcover or not, and he'll show you the photos, and you'll see like what condition the movie's in, all that stuff. And the Canadian slipcovers tend to look cooler than the US ones if there's a noticeable difference. Sometimes there isn't one, but if there's a noticeable difference, like it's put out by a different company or something, then generally the Canadian ones tend to be cooler looking. And the fact that he tells you explicitly if they come with the slips or not, that's a big deal. Plus, the ones that I look at from him, they tend to be like dirt cheap, the movies. And so it's like, well, hey, I got a different looking slip, different cover, different everything for a low price, and they explicitly tell you if it has the slip cover or not. Why wouldn't I do that? And
that, like French
so
text
there's
on
that
there too. Sometimes I really like those Canadian versions of shit you were showing us a couple of times there.
I like it. I like it too. But also there's that. But also there's a website called Blu-raysForEveryone.com, and I have looked for slipcovers on there, just slipcovers where they'll for like $2 or $3, depending on how common it is. Some of them are like exorbitant because of how rare they are, but other ones are like just a few bucks, and it's like, yeah, I could do that. And I've bought a bunch off of there just to, sleep better at night. And, and that's usually for a movie that I already have that, I don't want to like go through the hassle of looking for the movie again with the slipcover and then having to sell my old copy and all that stuff. Sometimes it's easier to just find the slipcover separately. Depends on what it is, though, because again, certain things are just more rare than others. But the way that I go about it is, I think, pretty reasonable. Plus, like if I can find them for free, that's usually what I like to do, and I have ways of doing that, as I've explained. But that's, I think, a reasonable way to go about. That's part of collecting that a lot of people find either eccentric or just not worth the time or whatever. But it's like, hey, if it doesn't cost you very much, if anything, then why not?
Yeah, it's a niche thing, and you're being smart about it. I mean, other people might not get why you want them or whatever, and then that's totally fine. That's the fun of collecting, is everyone does it a little different.
On your affordability too, like I'm a huge buyer, but I also have a very limited budget. So whenever I go and buy something, there's always something new to buy. And it's like, I've got to have it. And it's like,
well, ain't that the struggle,
though? If I cared about the damage of the slip cover, maybe. But I don't.
Well, to Jake's point, at least the slipcover took the fucking hits, and your shit underneath was fine.
The thing that
I think that's what they're actually for, if we're being honest.
I mean, looking at the amazing comments, sometimes I buy slipcovers for missing or damaged ones.
It's true, or like if you're the other.
What's that?
The thing that I'll do now. Sorry, just reading the comment there. Go ahead.
Just a slipcover used to be cheaper to get versus buying some anime title again to complete the set. Sorry, but I just wanted to make sure I got that ahead. Go ahead, Dane. Sorry.
Yeah. No, sorry, I go on and on. But the other thing that I'll do sometimes, especially these days, because I've been really getting into not just the buying of these things, but the designing, is sometimes instead of looking for a slipcover, if it even has one, I'll be looking at either getting off of custommaniacs.com or designing my own custom covers for certain things that
Dane's done. Like them.
Oh, I mean, that's an artistic thing.
Not yet custom slips. I wish that I could. I mean, that might be the next step, but the custom covers right now.
Whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Well, but you bring up a good point, though, which is that my next step, I would love to be able to make my own custom slip covers, because if that were the case, then I would make slip covers for fucking every movie I have.
Hell yeah. It just seems super fun, too.
Exactly. Well, the ones that I made, which I showed in the chat, the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot 2-pack custom cover that I made. I did that actually out of necessity, because the Jay and Silent Bob Reboot that I ordered from Amazon, it was cheap. It was like $8 or something, which is cheaper than it's normally gone for. But guess what? No slipcover. And I drove around town, because it's not that old of a release, but I drove around town thinking that maybe I might stumble across one and I might buy it and then return it but keep the slip. No such luck. And so instead, to kind of break up I had that Kevin Smith triple pack there of Clerks, Chasing Amy, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Had that triple pack. What I did was I took the Chasing Amy and Clerks ones, took them out, put them in their own individual cases, printed off the normal covers for those, and then took the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back disc, combined it with the Reboot disc, and then I made my own custom 2-pack. And you guys saw it. I think it turned out pretty darn well.
I think it's nice and clean.
Yeah, I mean, I try to make it as official looking as I can. Obviously, my weakest areas of those so far are the backs, because like there's a whole lot of like FBI information and stuff that the people who are really good, that they can replicate those and make them look so good that you would swear that they were real, or they sometimes look better than the real artwork. But in that case, there is no such 2-pack, so I kind of just did my best. But yeah, not too shabby for it. And I find that I really enjoy doing it. Like I did one for Bridge of Spies that I thought made it look a little Criterion Collection-esque. And I tried to do that across the board. And I think that can often, it can circumvent some of your slipcover woes, but you can also kind of add a unique layer to your viewing experience because you are really taking it into your own hands and showing off your artistic talents or showcasing the artistic talents of other people who uploaded their covers to like a site like the one I'm a member of, custommaniacs.org. And you know, there you can like buy a bunch of credits for like maybe however many hundreds of credits or like 10 euros or something, which is a little over $10 for US dollars. So for that much, plus like, you know, maybe less than $1 to print them off on nice paper at like an Office Depot, and then however much each of like the empty Blu-ray cases cost, like you would get, you know, depending on how it all goes, because you might have a case laying around or whatever, you might get it like less than the cost of a slipcover, less than the cost of buying the movie again or whatever. And then, of course, if you get the disc only, like I try to do now, then you can combine them into your customs, and then you've got something that's really special to you. And,
sure.
you know, that's its whole other kind of thing. And that's, in a way, that's kind of immune from the whole scalper thing. But then again, you know, it would be. Go ahead.
That actually brings up a good question, though, because honestly, in my mind, that's something I associate with scalpers is breaking down a set and selling the pieces.
Ooh.
And
I don't
actually,
like it when they do that. It
I get
bothers
really
me.
ticked about that. I get really ticked when I
Like
see
you got
like
yeah, anime DVD combo pack, and then they sell you only the Blu-ray. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Well,
right.
I could see that. I mean, that's not really what I'm talking about, but I could see I could see why that would make you angry or whatever.
If you're
Like
selling
I'm
it
sure
like
some
that,
of
yeah,
these
but
discs probably come from like if someone bought something from say a Blockbuster and the only case it had was the crappy case that they put it in. Like
yeah.
I could see that, but like I do see things like people will buy, let's say a Funimation DVD Blu-ray combo pack, and they'll split it up and sell the DVD, and they'll sell the Blu-ray separately, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, that's yeah.
I could see why that would piss you off.
Scummy.
Now, I do think actually for my purposes that those family video closing sales that I did
Mhm.
you know, earlier this year, like those ones, I got a lot of discs only, and I was able to. Some of them were ones that, like, oh, I am missing the DVD of that one, and I was able to get that, you know, to kind of complete it, or I was able to kind of have an incentive to practice my custom art skills, or you know, whatever.
Mhm.
So I mean, they have their like I could see the upside of that too. Like, you know, someone selling a disc only or a whatever. Like
Mhm.
if you just wanted that thing, or you were like, oh, my disc is scratched or missing or whatever, then
Mhm.
that can be advantageous in its own right. But I get what you're
Yeah,
saying, that, you know,
if you
that
need just a
usually,
replacement disc, yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
Let's
I mean,
yeah, I mean, let's look at. I mean, everybody here has one of the great things about each and every person here is that there's a unique point of view on collecting. Like I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure that I mean when we're talking with that amazing, just from knowing that collecting habits, I'm sure you'd probably also be upset about anything like that was like you get something sold and you realize half the discs are missing,
Yep.
and but you only have the DVD or the Blu-ray. But that's the thing is, it's each of us has that thing. There are some collectors. I mean, Dave, I know that you're talking about like the slip covers, but you know, there are some collectors that would say people who want the cases are stupid. I put all my stuff in a binder.
I tried doing that, and
Yeah.
especially with my CDs and having to travel in college and shit like that,
Mhm.
they got all kinds of fucked up, and I had to like throw out
Yeah.
And that's
like
the thing.
hundreds of dollars of CDs. So
And,
Yeah.
and that's the
damage.
thing. It's all unique, and but think about it though. The art, the display value, it's all dependent. I mean, like me, I
Mhm.
prefer having the original artwork, but that's me.
well,
Mhm.
I
I think it
really,
depends with the
yeah.
original artwork thing. I think it really depends on well, what is the original artwork, and more specifically, what's the original artwork for the particular edition that you're talking about? Because if I don't, I don't do custom covers on everything, but like if I get something, I mean, if I can find like a more unique or a better version of the artwork for something, then I'll do that with like a release that is from a different region or a different whatever. You know, I'll do that. Like I'm looking at like the Marvel Cinematic Universe films that I have them all back in the collection on 4K and everything. But like for the first 3 Avengers films, the Iron Man trilogy, the Captain America trilogy, the Thor trilogy, the 2 Guardians of the Galaxy films, they all come in their own individual box sets from the UK in 4K. And those ones are better looking. They're more unique looking than the kind of crappy looking 4K editions that we had in the United States for those. And so those, like, is that original artwork? Yes, it is, but it's not what we're used to seeing in the US. So it helps to stand out. It's still official, but it just kind of makes it something different. Or like you have something like the James Bond series, where I bought that big horizontal box, the Bond 50 set that came out around the time of Skyfall, because that had that had a unique bonus disc that only was released on that set. And but I got that cheap, and I was able to put them all in their own custom cases with their own custom artwork. Each movie is numbered according to what order it came in, so they're all uniform. They all look great. They're all the original poster artwork, and you can just pull them off the shelf, and you know what order they go in and everything. And it's like, you know, that just, and also like that same artist, that same designer, he did the 2 unofficial or the non-Eon ones, Casino Royale 1967 and Never Say Never Again, did them in that same style, but left them unnumbered because, again, they're not, you know, part of that series. But you can put them alongside the other Bond films because they have James Bond, the character, in them. And so it's like, hey, look at that. You know, that solves a lot of issues. And also, part of the allure of doing the custom covers, at least for me, is that if a movie poster is really iconic looking, and the particular release doesn't have it, then it's like, well, what the fuck is that? You know, put on the great artwork that we know. And so that allows you to do that, or, you know, just do something different, something that doesn't make it look like every other collector's shelf that you see on YouTube. Because you know me, I hate that. You know, I hate looking like everybody else, you know, when it comes to what
I lose shit in there anyway. So yeah, at the end of the day, the artwork isn't as big of a deal. But I feel you. This intrigues me though, because you did that with that Bond set. Yeah. And I bought that 40 film Clint Eastwood collection a while back. That desperately needs better packaging, you know, because it's all cardboard. Like I've been nervous to take them out more than once to watch them.
Yeah, they look like they're not very. It looks like the scratchable, like.
You might as well chuck them across the room after you're done watching the discs, unless you're gonna do something like what he's talking about here and making like your own custom casing for it. So this is a revelation to me.
I would highly recommend it, especially for like a really big series like James Bond, where like, you know, like here. So you buy a big set like the one I bought, and I bought it at a good price, and it was brand spanking new, but I bought it at a good price, and it was such that it was an older release, so it only went up to Quantum of Solace. It didn't have Skyfall or Spectre or anything, but it did what I needed it to do, because it got me all those older releases. It got them in a pretty economical way. But then, let's say you bought Spectre, which never came on that set, because again, they re-released that set later with Skyfall included. But Spectre, there's no place for it. So what do? Does Spectre just kind of sit off on its own? Do you put it
looking in the window like friggin' Kevin looking in the window at that
Yeah,
family
like-
having Christmas?
Yeah.
well, that's what I mean. It's like, what do you do? And then if you have Casino Royale 1967 or you have Never Say Never Again, where do they go? Do they go alphabetically? Where do they go? And so the way that I did it, it's or then you say, okay, well, I'm going to get every title individually. Okay, well, you have to get them all individually, and that's not the most economical solution because those titles just on their own aren't really priced in a way that's reasonable. And then you have to know what order they go in, and then you have to say, okay, do I put them all under J? What do I do? They're not all uniform looking. They're, this and that. And then, what do I do with Casino Royale and Never Say Never Again? You could do it that way. I contemplated doing it that way, but then it was like, well, that's more money than it's worth, more trouble than it's worth. Plus, you're going with whatever artwork that particular release decided to go with, which tends to be kind of shitty. Let's be honest. The James Bond artwork for most of the DVD and Blu-ray releases has tended to be pretty bad for like the back catalog. I mean,
Mostly.
and then it's like
Absolutely, yeah.
which sucks because again, the actual James
The
Bond
posters are amazing.
Exactly.
Oh.
So it's like you want to show them off. It's like
Yeah.
you got the James Bond legacy here. You want to show it off for all it's worth. So that's what I did. I printed off all those custom covers. I did all that work, and I'm looking at them now, and it's like they look beautiful. They're all perfectly numbered. They're all in the right order. I
You
put
just got to go through a marathon of those recently too. I think.
I did, and a certain furry somebody who I'm stroking off camera.
Oh,
He was raised on those bad boys because he had to learn how to be the coolest cat in town from the coolest cat on screen, and Bond and of course the cat, Blofeld's cat, of course. So two cool cats. Yeah, I mean, I think it's great, and honestly, like one of the impetuses for the James Bond set in particular was actually one of the very earliest it's what's bullshit episodes that James Rolfe did, where he talked about DVD packaging, and he mentioned specifically the James Bond series that was on DVD at the time, which was like an older release. It wasn't even Blu-ray. But he talked about how like they were just in any order, the different volumes were all like mixing and matching from like the Sean Connery era, Roger Moore, like they would just mismatch everything. And like they weren't in the right order, they weren't in anything. And he was like, put them in the order. And then also he's like, don't you love the convenience of grabbing a DVD off the shelf? Why would you want to cover them up in like layers and layers of boxes? And I kind of like normally I don't have a problem with that, but like in the particular case that he mentioned, where there was like one big box and then each of the volumes had their own boxes, and then within each of those were all the slim packs.
I got that set, by the way.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Versus like what I have, where I see each title, it's in the correct order.
Yeah.
Even the two non-Eon films are in there in the spots that they fit in the overall James Bond timeline, because they, despite not being official or whatever, they, in terms of the series, they are official adaptations, and they still kind of have a place in James Bond history, so they need to not be ignored.
As official an adaptation as any of them can be. Like, I have read The Man with the Golden Gun, and the movie had nothing to do with the book.
Exactly, but you know what I mean, though. It's like they're official adaptations of the James Bond character, but they are not part of the Eon series. But they're still important in James Bond history.
Sure.
So I put them there.
Though I think Connery's toupee is rather obvious in that one. The only thing I care about the book of Golden Gun is, does Scaramanga have 3 nipples in the fucking book or no?
I don't even think he's in it. I mean, again, there is nothing.
No, I thought he was.
They took the title. They took Bond. I feel like Felix Leiter's in both versions.
Well,
And then, of course,
Felix Leiter was there from the beginning in the books.
yeah,
and
but
the
he wasn't
movie.
in all of them. He was here and there, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it when he shows up.
Well,
Yeah.
the more that the series went on, the more that they got away from the books, if they even adapted the books, which obviously they ceased to do after a while. But then,
You
like,
know,
I've heard that Casino Royale is actually pretty close plot wise. I do need to read that one.
I think the older I get, the more I'm over shot for shot adaptations or remakes.
yeah,
I want it.
Talking shop for shop here.
like it
You know, I
depends.
want it
You're-
pretty divergent. As
Yeah.
long as the core of it's still in there somewhere, though. It sounds like Golden Gun would have been a disappointing
To my
case.
mind, it has, and that could be a whole other fun discussion. And we are probably going to need to wrap this one up soon, I would think.
Yeah.
But
Dave, you were about to say something. We cut
oh,
you
sorry.
off. So what were you saying, Dave?
Don't remember.
Oh well, sorry. Well, at least we tried. Sorry about that. But yeah, we actually probably should be starting to wrap things up. But we had some amazing conversation here when it comes to these types of things. I had one other thing I wanted to hit before we started to circle away, because it was something that Dave and Dane both brought up. And Jake, I know you brought it up.
good time with you,
occasionally.
Roger. Yeah. Sorry. Just looking at the comments there.
Oh, nice talking to you as well. The last part of this, of course, we were talking about like the idea of waiting for a better price, and it all depends. Like that Friday the 13th box set, good example. Right now, it's like 103 on Amazon right now, which is much cheaper than the original.
Still too rich for my blood.
But again, it's all about
You want it,
waiting
Jake.
and knowing.
I heard you say on your guys' pickups the other day that I feel like you're becoming more curious about other stuff.
like that set. I having seen all the movies, I now know what I'm dealing with. But that's still too rich for my blood. I would be like, if I could buy that. If I could buy that set for 30 or 40, I would snap it up.
See, that's saying something. I don't think we would have heard Jake saying shit like that.
I think I was saying 20 originally.
So, but you know, the original, like, but that's the idea, is like you're waiting on something to come down.
Yeah.
But then it goes OOP, and then it shoots right up. And that's the question. We talked about that. We talked about that in the last vlogcast. I know it's been ages, about those OOP blues. By the way, check it out if you haven't checked it. Mo actually did the cover art for that one. With, the Gamera sitting there being upset about the Gamera set being up.
That was a rough one. That and fucking Zatuichi, man. I mean, honestly, there was bouts of depression involved in that. You know, it's like when you see it for $500, and it's like, so basically, I got to go broke for a month, and you know, all my spending money gone to get this thing that I could have gotten if I hadn't been so frugal about it, man. You know, I don't know how that plays into your conversation, your topic here, but.
Or like where
how do you know when to go and when not to go? That's the thing. When to wait.
You got to know when to hold him.
Exactly.
or like, again,
you got to know when to walk away, and you got to know when to run, and that's when Gamera hits $400. You just
exactly. Talking again about those, those Sentai Limited sets. I already own Kale, so I did not want to pay what they were asking for it. And I was like, I'll wait for the price to come down. And I think it may have gotten down to just over 100. Might have dipped below that. And then it went out of print. And it's like,
everybody look at me. You only live twice, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, we just got instant, double the recognition of this video because of a cute cat in there. So
exactly.
Clip it, put it on Facebook. Let's print this shit. Like,
yeah. It's like number 2.
Whoa!
Give you a report. Number 2.
Okay, so
the whole pulling
okay,
the
so
trigger
that-
thing.
Well, that's set right now. We're looking at a very broad range of pricing, ranging from just under 300 to some idiot has it up for $1,019.97.
I feel like those guys
motherfucker.
gotta be trolling. They're just like, haha, I have it, and if you want it, $4,000, you know, like
Yeah, that's kind of
that's been happening with Halloween tapes lately. I forget which release of it is on VHS, but it's on eBay right now for like $2,500.
Well,
it's not
there are some people. This is I'm thinking specifically. There was this app that was released on the App Store that is not sold on the App Store anymore.
Indeed.
I cannot remember what it was called, but it was. I think it was something like I have a lot of money. I think it was something called something like that, and it basically the app sold for like this ridiculous price. It was like maybe $1,000 or something, and you buy it, and it's just a little sign that says "I have a lot of money" or whatever.
That's hilarious.
I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly what it was called, but it was something very much like that.
That's
And
super cool.
someone actually bought it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Wow.
Like at least one person
Some
bought it.
idiot.
Yes, exactly. And it did not last on the App Store, on the Apple App Store for very long. But someone bought it. That's the point. Like
Yeah.
so you know
wow.
that as overpriced as certain things are, that
Did they try to get their money back?
I don't know, but let's but you know that someone out there is dumb enough to do that, because that story of that app that proves it. And an app is just a digital piece of data, that you put on your phone. It's not even like it's a physical object or something, but it's like if someone can be stupid enough to pay that much for fucking nothing, then they'll be stupid enough to pay $1,000 for a DVD set or something.
Yeah, I like to hope that most of those idiots are those assholes that are up late drunk, like buying things. I'm a high roller, and they wake up the next day to the wife pissed because she's checked.
And you guys
get what you deserve, goddammit.
So you guys were reminded of a classic country song a few minutes ago. I'm reminded of another one. I'll throw in the Golden Gate for free.
That's right. That's right. Good
Well, to Brandon's point, though, I think with the whole issue of knowing when to pull the trigger, there isn't an answer to that. I mean, you just got to weigh it like this.
Right.
Do you want the set badly and enough to pay scalper prices? Because if you're willing to wait long enough to try and save $30 and end up costing yourself $300, you're screwed either way.
Yeah.
So if you really want it and you want to avoid the scalper prices, just pay the goddamn retail price for it. If it's that important to you, you're going to be bummed about it, like I was with Zatuichi when that went out of print. Put off the other cheaper purchases that you could get more of at once or something, however you're thinking about it at the moment, and just sink in the investment of paying the full price so you have it and you don't have to worry about it. The stress that you'll relieve yourself from with that will be worth that extra $30.
For me, it's usually like, here's how I calculate in my head. Do I like the movie enough to, theoretically, if I were to pay full price, do I like the movie enough to pay full price anyway? Is it a big enough release where it has like some kind of super duper exclusive version, whether it's like a Criterion Collection Arrow, or like a store exclusive, like a Best Buy exclusive Steelbook or whatever? And also, like, what's the approximate demand for it? Things like that. I try to calculate all that out as best as I can, and sometimes it's not always perfect, but like, I've kind of gotten like a rough formula in my head for like how much, like, do I care about this that much to where I would go out and get this the first day and pay full price? Like, the certain things I will, because I know that they're going to go out of stock, if not out of print or whatever, that they'll go out really fast, because it's a high demand item. Certain things I'm like, I don't really care about that much. I can wait for a good price or whatever. But then the ones that scare me are the ones that everything seems hunky-dory, and you think, oh, I can afford to wait on that, and then they're just fucking gone for reasons that are just random, or things that nobody could have predicted. Like, I mean, nobody could have predicted that Harvey Weinstein would prove to be a very naughty boy, and that that would cause all the Miramax and the Weinstein Company assets to go up for sale in general, let alone for the home video releases, let alone whatever deal they struck, and then of course eventually they did with Paramount. And it's like that took a long time for that to trickle down, and only now are those releases in their back catalog, which admittedly their back catalog is really, really impressive. Only now are those movies starting to come back out into circulation. And even then, what I found out with like that Kevin Smith triple pack, for example, they, outside of having the Paramount logo on the actual artwork, like the disc wise, they're not at all different from like the original release, because keep in mind that the original releases of those on Blu-ray were put out by Miramax back when they still had their Disney deal, and so the actual functions of the discs, they resemble their Disney incarnations. And that's even if you did the ones that said Miramax and Lionsgate under there. They didn't change them to resemble a Lionsgate Blu-ray. They kept them the same. They just changed the packaging on the outside. So then you're like, well, can I track these down used for cheaper? And a lot of times you can, other times you can't. And that's what's crazy, is that they just seem to be kind of random.
Yeah, they just turn into vapor sometimes.
They do.
Is generally, if the value of a set outweighs the price, I grab it. That's pretty sexy.
Yeah.
That's good, sexy
That's
logic.
actually a
there,
pretty
Roger.
good way to go by.
Yeah,
Slippery slope, though. That's how you end up with 50 fucking John Wayne movies you're never gonna watch.
That's true. The one that we're kind of forgetting, as far as places to find things, the source that we're kind of forgetting that I have found immense success with selling, if not buying, but mostly selling, is Facebook Marketplace.
Oh God, yeah. I'll
Like,
meet a sketchy dude behind 7-Eleven for slasher flicks sometimes, and it's like, this feels gross, but I'm proud I'm doing it.
Well,
I'm getting it.
or I will sell directly to like the horror collector groups or the people that I know have a
I'm not
vested
gonna lie, I
interest.
totally made my girlfriend go pay that guy for the movies, so I didn't even get out of the car.
Yeah, well, I'll do that directly to the people that would have a vested interest in that kind of stuff, and usually I can make a sale pretty fast because those people will snag them up pretty quickly. But depending on those sellers, you can get people that like generally I think that those tend to be those kinds of groups. They tend to be the ones that are the most predisposed to watching out for scalpers because they know what it's like.
Yeah.
But now the flip side of that is that you'll get people that I've tried to sell stuff in certain groups, and I've tried to just put out videos and stuff, but like certain groups, you get like some real assholes in there, like people that just mock you for no reason whatsoever, like really like bullying behavior. And luckily I will report them if I feel like it's egregious enough, or they'll just get reported themselves or whatever. But like there's one group in particular that I'm like, you just post something and they'll just get these hordes of people that just kind of go after you for no reason.
That's the internet, unfortunately. But you are going to have more success more often than not getting stuff at a good price inside of a group.
And generally, I just see that's the thing. Generally, I do, and generally the interactions are very positive. It's just more so that like I completely expect that kind of behavior from like the internet at large. Because
in a group though, where you have to show your face more than once, it feels odd. I almost kind of welcome it though, because I'll just shut them the fuck down, like right in front of their friends or whatever.
Well, that's what I've done too. But it's just more like
it gets old.
Well, it's just more surprising because you would think that those would be the people that there'd be a certain upper echelon of people that would have put up with that from the normal rabble, but they're going to be good to people that are like them. But nope. And I do find that is kind of an unfortunate subculture within, well, the horror community, but also within the collector community, that you'll get these people that are just sort of like trolls in the not clever sense, like more like harassers. Like, because again, trolls classically are more like, I've heard it described as like internet satire, and those
it's fun typically. And offense, you know, but you get those jaded dicks sometimes that just want to be mean for the sake of being mean.
Exactly.
And usually, to be fair, they end up like pissing off more than just you. So they'll get weeded out of most groups with any integrity.
And that seems to be what's happening with the groups I'm involved in, and so that's why, like, for the most part, it's a good experience for like being able to sell stuff at reasonable prices and expect to find them at reasonable prices, and to have the scalpers kind of policed out of the group. But you know, it's not perfect, and so you got to be watchful. It's just more surprising when people like that kind of slip through the cracks when otherwise it's a pretty well policed platform. But that's just anywhere. There's going to be bad apples that slip through, no matter where you are. But still, that's another important outlet for selling stuff at a reasonable price, but also getting stuff, and also to. There's more of a moderation system for smashing down scalpers because it is kind of self-policed.
Now, the last thing, of course, that comes along with this, and if Animazing's still listening, I'm sure that they'd also agree, is about things that go out of print and then come back into print. And, you know, you never know what it is that will come back out of again to print.
Yeah.
I'm going to give two examples of this so that I can throw out. One is Paranoia Agent, which had been out of print for ages, but recently this year has come back into print in a Blu-ray set, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Also, though, is Urusei Yatsura, which is a set from a creator that a lot of her stuff is still in print. But this one and Maison Ikoku is a good example. But, you know, it's still a decent number. I mean, a lot of the things like Inuyasha, Ranma, these things, they're all in print. But Urusei Yatsura, Maison Ikoku, these are widely out of print. And we don't know. Will they come back? Are they going to make a comeback? And that's the thing. Do you know that? I mean, there's that worry, like, I'm going to buy up this rare thing that these people are reselling or scalping.
So
if you resell, you buy it up and then you take that risk. Will it come back into print?
That's kind of the thing I was alluding to with my point that I made on your topic there. Like, yes, you gotta be able to know whether it's something you don't want to risk going out of print and snap it up immediately. I would say anything you're willing to wait on for like a price drop, you should make sure that it's something you're willing to either not get if it goes out of print, you're unwilling to pay that, or something that you might be willing to pay the out of print price for it. I think when you're thinking about investing in something that is, you know, exorbitantly priced compared to its in print price, I kind of went through this with the Zatoichi thing. You just got to accept that, there's a little residual shame you're going to share there. I was fully prepared to buy that set for $300 and then just never talk to you guys about it because I didn't want to relive the fact that I paid that price for it. But at the same time, I knew I wanted it enough that I was willing to pay that if I had to. So whether it comes into print later or not, I wouldn't take that as like something to be depressed about. You loved the shit enough that you were willing to eventually break down and pay the price for it. And
now let's be real as far as like why certain things do go out of print or whatever. That usually 99% of the time it's due to things that the general public has no knowledge of or sway over, which is usually like a rights issue or somebody bought up some catalog of something. And a lot of the times it'll be something that isn't necessarily enforced consistently. Like I'm thinking of like the reason why Dogma continues to be out of print is because the rights situation, I guess, are that technically both Bob and Harvey Weinstein own the rights to it, and so there's like a kind of complicated situation where you'd have to jump through some hoops to get it out there again. But then there are other things like Zack and Miri make a porno which was also Kevin Smith also had Harvey Weinstein's name attached to it. That one is really easy to find. And you're just like, well, why is that one easy to find and then the other one isn't? It's usually because of some legal complication or because of such and such thing that the general public just doesn't have knowledge of. And then on the rare, there are a couple of rare instances where like, something like a Serbian film, would go in and out of print, just back and forth, and it would be whatever cut of the movie. Like I used to have the original US Blu-ray that had the 103-minute version, which was 1 minute shorter than the fully uncut version. And I used to have that. That would go into print, out of print, into print, out of print. And then the fully uncut DVD that I recently sold, that one was in print for a little bit and then it went out of print, and then I managed to find it like one copy for $80, which was a steal at the time. But then all of a sudden, like a little over 10 years later, the movie's coming out fully uncut in the US on Blu-ray, and it's like, well, will that version of it, will it last, or will it get suppressed again? Will people freak out again or whatever? Or is it like, time heals all wounds or what? You just don't know, because like, again, Gone with the Wind in print for forever, pretty much ever since it came out, and ever since home video. Then all of a sudden, like, there's the big run as soon as HBO Max, freaked out. And it's like, you don't know. It's like, yeah, generally time heals wounds, but like in that case, it's like time seems to be keeping those wounds alive.
Well, yeah, and Roger mentions Discotheque here.
Yes,
we have Discotheque
awesome,
to thank for this wonderful series coming back into print, Kimaguri Orange Road. This was an Animago release, so it was way out of print, and now it's back in print. But yeah, if anything happens with Discotheque, who knows how long that'll last. But it's really nice for now.
Are they the ones bringing Kodacha back into print?
I believe so, and that's another one that really needs it.
And that second season never got a release, so that was
Kodacha. Really cool. Yeah, Kodacha. The first half was released by Funimation, and then they dropped the ball halfway through. And I think they had the rights until 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. But and then he mentions where we were talking about, you brought up Ursa Yatsura, and that was also an Animago release that still needs a redo. But from what I hear, Rumiko Takahashi herself has blocked re-releases of the Rumic World one-shots. And I'd love to see those get a release. But there you have something where the original creator, Brandon, has a bootleg copy. I believe it's a bootleg. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Of Johnny Depp's directorial debut.
Yeah, I got the bootleg.
He apparently blocked the American release on that. He didn't want it. Yeah.
Was that the one with Marlon Brando?
Yes.
Films? I want to watch
Brave.
That.
Yeah.
It's actually not bad. I mean, it's very artistic, but again, it's not a bad film, and it's but he got so embarrassed by people not liking it that he's like, well, screw you all, you can't have it, you can't see it.
Yeah.
You can't have any.
or Bill Cosby.
I had like a sweet Discotheque joke that I was telling, but my mic was muted, so that's on me.
What was that?
I was to tell Roger, like, I hope they survive the merger too, buddy. But if they don't, we might not have those anime, but we still have each other.
Okay. That Bill Cosby wanted to be
Leonard Part 6.
Leonard Part 6. Like, so there's one that I purposely have in my collection because he does not want it in print.
I know.
I need to get that.
I'm pretty sure people don't want most
because
Bill
of how bad
Cosby
it is.
You just need that solely for the scene of Killer Trout reading porn.
Yeah, well, there's an interesting little chink in the cancellation armor, which is the fact that movie got put out on Blu-ray by, what was it? Was it Mill Creek or what was it? Who put it out on Blu-ray? But it was
maybe.
But point is, like, that was after his conviction.
Mill Creek don't give no fucks, bro. Like that's movies about like cripples and everything onto a box set and just sell it. They don't care. They're just buying. I think they're in Wisconsin somewhere making cheese when they're not like fucking doing actual cheese on like disc. You know. Like,
well, but I guess that's kind of my point. Is like, you know, you talk about canceling quote unquote problematic media or whatever, but then like, you know, you've got something like, you know, again, Gone with the Wind. There's the big run on it just because a movie came out in 1939, and how could a movie from that era possibly hold up to our standards? Versus like a movie that has like, you know, starring an actual convicted, you know, rapist and everything, and then that comes out into print brand new, and it's like, I mean, I think it should all be in print, but I'm also like, well, that just kind of, it's the chink in the armor or whatever. And then like I bought the
you can cancel people all you want, but there's always going to be a release of them sitting at a Korean thrift store somewhere for me to buy.
Exactly.
Many of them done by Mill Creek. That's like,
exactly. Or like, I finally got the which I'm ashamed that I didn't have it sooner in the collection, but I finally got all of the Naked Gun movies, and those all three of them. I mean, they're great films.
OJ.
But they all three of them have O.J. Simpson in them, you know, and to be fair, the guy is very funny. But it's just like, you know, again, it's the hypocrisy there. But it's again, it's like you don't know if there's going to be like enough of a pressure campaign to like say we can't possibly see O.J. Simpson in a movie. Even if it was from long before the murders ever happened or whatever. It's just, you just don't know.
To be fair, though, there's a lot of stuff that's came to light involving like Glenn Rogers and shit, who was a traveling serial murderer at the time. That maybe, you know, it's possible OJ's only guilty of robbing his own memorabilia from I just think it's hilarious.
That's the other theory, but like, well, but you get what I mean. It's like we're in a kind of precarious position now where you just don't know who's going to crank up the pressure on whatever popular thing such that we can get it canceled, at least temporarily. You just don't know. And so that's why like I'm more paranoid about the out of print thing for those kinds of reasons. And that's why I bought up all the blaxploitation films that I could. Because I was like, well, these are great films, and I just don't want people to get the wrong idea about them. You know, I want people to study them for what they are, and to, you know, to know why they were important precisely for the reasons that, you know, that they're supposedly saying what they're saying. It's because they kind of gave, you know, Black people like an early voice in cinema, you know, in a way that they hadn't before. And it's like people just kind of choose to not remember it that way. And, you know, it's a precarious position.
A lot of them kick ass.
Exactly.
So, you know, if you're racist or some shit, go watch some blaxploitation action flicks, and, you know, maybe you'll start coming around to being less of a piece of shit. I don't know.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's all in how you frame it up, but also it's just like, that's what freaks me out beyond just the stuff that nobody can control, like the rights situation and all that. But that's also why you have like those smaller indie or less mainstream rather distributors that will put out these movies that no one else would touch. I mean, Necromantic would have no chance had it were it not for Blue Underground in the US or Arrow in the UK. I have the Arrow ones in front of me. Like those would have no chance if it weren't for those people that were willing to put out those weirdo releases, or like, you know,
we really got to take Jake through those one of these days. The Necromantic movies,
or like
double feature.
Y'all didn't see what I presented tonight on the movie on our movie thing. Thanks to Brandon, I can now claim these in my lovely films in my collection.
Oh yeah, that toilet.
Actually, that brings me to something I wanted to involve Dave in on this subject, which is independent films, like the small independent, sometimes shot on video films like that, like Death Toilet, like Bunny the Killer Thing. how do you apply the concept of waiting for a price to drop to something like that? And Dave, you haven't been on much there, so I just thought I would give you the opportunity for
His
that one.
camera's gone. He might be over there petting the Ted. You all right, bro?
Yeah, I'm good.
Because you deal with more independent filmmakers than most of us do.
Films go, if they're trying to get $25-$30, that's kind of getting up there in price. I mean, that's kind of going like a regular retail price for their films, and they're starting once they get to a certain degree of popularity as a director or a filmmaker, they're allowed to go that way. But you know, it depends. I mean, most filmmakers end up selling their films for $10-$15, you know, at a pop, just to get themselves started.
I think you got to look at it like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dave. I thought you were.
But when it comes to, I mean, actually trying to make money, you're not making money if you're not part of a company of any kind. You're barely skimming the barrel, you know.
I think with that stuff, you got to look at it in one of two ways. Like, okay, well, there's several ways. I don't know why I set it at a set number. Do they have a crowdfunding thing going for their next movie? You know, $30 is kind of exorbitant for an indie film. 20 is a happy middle ground, would you say?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like then you feel like you're contributing a bit to the next movie. You feel like they're maybe making a little something for their time, and you're not getting bilked for more cash than you should be.
Crowdfunding is a different story, because then
they definitely should be selling it for 10 or 15, because then supporters are giving them cash on the side. That's, you know, in my mind,
to make the film too is at the same time sometimes.
Right. So it's like if like they've got a crowdfunding thing going for their next project and they're trying to sell you the movie for $30 or some shit, maybe I could see like being like,
example of a great funding price. Okay, there was a point in time where there was an Ohio film that was giving $50 for you to be a producer on their film, own it, and have your name on DVD and everything else like that. Have it in physical form for $50. Now that is great crowdfunding.
There you go. You're basically, it's like you're giving them like $20 for the movie itself, and then like $30 for credit on the damn thing and a physical copy. You know?
And my name was in the front and the back of the damn thing. So
that's super cool. I mean,
and keep in mind it depends on the ones, because I mean, I'll give you a good example. When I was I was helping out to try and get Out and About the Movie 1 back in print, and I managed to help briefly get that back in print. Of course, my interest was not just in getting a copy for myself, even though that was a primary interest. It was also in allowing others to get copies of it. So that cost me a little bit more than the standard. But like for, say, Out and About the Movie 2, which was a thing, sometimes when you're a small creator, like small, it costs a lot to even get a small run of Blu-ray discs. So sometimes $25 for a Blu-ray is not all that much,
right?
In the scheme of things, when it costs them a lot of money just to get those small prints out.
And being realistic about it, how much is the price going to drop on something that's already low print run? You know, and especially if they've charged more than what some people are comfortable for it, that means they didn't sell a bunch of it. So it's not like something at a retail store where it's like, oh yeah, you know, that clamshell of friggin' Reno 911 is going to eventually go down to $40, so I can just not worry about it. With an independent film, it's like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but in my experience, I've never seen them drop too much in price. They tend to go up, you know,
because there's not a lot of re-releases.
Right.
I mean, I put out Killer what was it, Bunny the Killer thing. But Dave, how many re-releases for cheaper prices have there been of that thing?
of that particular film, there's only been two. The first one was in stores, and then the other one was, in fact, I have it right here. This one was a limited run from Raven. Oh, hold on. This one was a limited run of say maybe 3,000, and it's got and Raven Banner tends to put out some really nice releases. This is a Blu-ray, a DVD, and a soundtrack of the movie. So nice. And a bunch of like a little cool poster cards and shit like that. Now that was being scalped. This was being scalped.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, look at that release.
I got mine off of Amazon, and mine is numbered 226. Actually, only 1,000 of these were made.
See, I would point out though that as a creator, if you had something like that being fucking scalped like that, I would feel bad for the people not getting it, and I would almost feel obligated to be like making my own versions of it and selling them to them on Facebook or something. But I'd be so proud of my product, like, holy shit, this is in demand enough. People are scalping it. There's idiots out there actually paying that for what I did, you know.
Well, I remember when I mine up from Amazon, and I was in contact with the director himself, and he said that he hadn't even gotten his copy of it yet, and they were scalping it.
Well, look at one of ours that one of our people here, Dane, for instance, matter of fact, two of your films that I've been working hard to make sure I got a hold of. One of them is at Walmart, which wasn't too bad, but
Faces of Fear.
Yeah, the other though, for We Are Many.
Yeah,
and which, by the way, is an amazing release. I mean,
oh yeah,
the people who did it put together an amazing product, but it's so hard to get. Unless you didn't get on there at the ground floor, you were kind of screwed unless you want to watch it because streaming has gotten to the point where they're like, why do you need a physical release? Just watch it as streaming. But
it's harder to come by because you have to get it straight through Hex Media's website, you know, because they put out their own stuff, as opposed to like Wild Eye Releasing for Faces of Fear, where they have a wider way of getting things out there through a Walmart or whatever.
Shit, if I'd known it was at Walmart, I'd have been grabbing it up.
I didn't know it was at Walmart or like physically. I mean, I kind of assumed it would be because it was Wild Eye Releasing, but I just pre-ordered it off of Amazon, and then For We Are Many, I got a free copy because, you know, it's I was part of it. But it was you just never know what the distribution deals are going to be, especially in the indie world. Like, you know, a film that I'm involved with right now, you know, we're trying to, you know, see what possible avenues there are. And, you know, it's a different kind of avenue, different options are out there. And it just kind of depends on which ways are available to you and also who takes an interest and all that kind of stuff. Because, you know, as what's his face, Tony Shalhoub was like, he's taken an interest. You know, you gotta know who has taken an interest in your product or whatever. Which, speaking of the custom covers I did that I personally made, just before I forgot, I did this one here for Bridge of Spies, right there, which I think that looks pretty sweet. And I made the spine myself, and now the back part does come from the official release, but that's because it's got all the little FBI warnings and stuff. But like the cover there, I made myself, which I hate the fact that this has so much fucking glare. But yeah, I made that there. I put the little logo on the bottom there. It looks kind of Criterion Collection-esque. And then I made this one recently, Dodgeball, which technically it emulates the official look, except that the asset that I got was just this, and then I put the logo up here, and then this side and everything, these were already made, but I just put a new cover on it.
There needs to be like a wrench flying across the front of the.
Yeah, like in this,
you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. It's
and
true.
this one I made entirely on my own, which you guys saw, but the people at home didn't see.
Yeah.
But I made that one entirely myself. Made the side myself there with Jay and with Silent Bob there. And I put, Miramax and Lionsgate on the bottom there. And then the back part I had to make myself, even though it's, doesn't have a barcode or whatever, but, not too shabby. And this one I took the official Savages poster, and then I put this information down on the side here. And then I also made the spine myself. And the back part was already made, but I like the way that turned out. And then Slender Man here I made myself. I took that existing poster and put the font on there, and it just kind of looks cooler than the official artwork, which looks pretty stupid. And the back part I already had. I made the spine, so
I've been considering making my own creepypasta called Rotund Man, because I feel like we're underrepresented in the creepypasta world, so I'd like to change that.
Why not?
Well, just as a heads up,
but
though,
yeah,
if you
I just wanted to say I was talking about him.
If you do see some of Dane's works in the wild, you should check them out. Especially, I really loved your piece in
the mystery box or whatever, dark web.
Dark web mystery box. The Clownsploitation, which is not available in physical.
Oh, that's another one. Knowledge. Yeah.
And it's just so many good things that a lot of the advent of streaming has been amazing at getting the word out. But the problem is for us physical collectors, it makes those physical releases so much rarer. Whereas let's say Dane was functioning in the 80s, right? Let's say you were like a big producer in the 80s trying to get your stuff out. Your stuff would be in rental shops on VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Probably direct to VHS.
Yeah. But that's the thing though. It would be on physical. But now it is on the web. But to me, I don't trust a lot of that. But that's because I'm a physical collector. Yeah,
I don't trust it either.
That's good.
Well, I don't trust it either because I don't trust it either because you just don't know what the runtime, what the half-life of those things is going to be. You don't know how available they're going to be. You don't know if that streaming platform is going to go under because there are a lot of streaming platforms they go under, and you're just like and some of them think about the people. Which do you guys remember Quibi that went under this year? Which thank God
on that Reno 911. Damn.
Well, thank God that it went under because I remembered seeing that as a business model, and I was like, "That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of in my life."
Trying to make a streaming service for people that watch TikTok.
Essentially,
what's that, bud?
Didn't Ultraviolet go under?
Yes, it did.
Ultraviolet went under.
Well, okay. See, to solve all this, though, and this might sound scummy to some of you guys, but there are times where I might lower the colors and raise that Jolly Roger temporarily and just grab something off of a streaming platform because it just isn't fucking available, I'd love to buy it directly from the dudes, but
that's where you get your stinky tunas. You get your sleepy dog, whatever the fuck it is, sleepy dog or whatever it's called. But that's the thing is that's where you get these people who are doing it because there is no physical, and then they create what is out there because there is a niche market like us there, like the Muppet Show, good example. Only 3 seasons are available in physical, and Disney is not putting a lot of the later seasons on Disney Plus, so it's kind of like, well, how else are you going to get them?
Exactly.
It's got to DIY
that's a shame. But for somebody like, say, for you, Dane, when you've got your stuff out there, you're even in a more precarious state when it's in a digital space because if that small platform dies, then that area just dies entirely. It's a harder thing to get into there.
Yeah, I'm gonna just tell you, if you ever decide snag
Indie
those
film-
and later do a physical release for just us friends. I'll fucking
Well,
do it.
indie film in general is pretty difficult these days because of like it's easy to get your stuff. It's okay, so it's easier than ever to get your work out there, like physically out there. It's harder than ever to get to break through all the noise and to make money from it.
Get
But
it
as
actually
far as
seen.
exactly, and to make money from it, because like to physically get your work out there, it's easier than it's ever been, but it's just there's this sea of crap, that you have to like sift through. And even with the stuff I've done lately, the stuff I've done has all been in the form of anthologies. So it's not like I had like a dedicated release to just my own stuff as much as I would like that. But hopefully not for too much longer. I mean, I've been working on feature film scripts. I've been working on scripts for things that I totally control. I've been, involved in other people's works such that I make those important connections to get something of mine made and out there in a real way. So, I mean, big things are kind of on the horizon. And my hope is that this next year, especially, my singular goal for this next year is to just write and get produced work out there such that I can get it sold, preferably, or get it made on my own dime / gumption, and out there to where it can help get the next thing made and the next thing made. And that's part of why like I've been so gung-ho into looking into everything Kevin Smith, because like when I was in college, everybody talked about Kevin Smith and I was just like, oh, shut the fuck up, because like people would over talk about certain people.
It was a thing for a while, and if you even looked kind of like the dude, like I was a dumpy guy that liked to wear my hat backwards, and I had long hair. And one time I was at Comic-Con, and this guy walked by, and he's like, "The Kevin Smith panel's not till 4," and I was like, "What the fuck is this dude even talking about?" Like it got too popular for a bit, where it's like that guy somehow associating me with fucking Silent Bob or something. How?
Yeah, well, but what happened?
Fat guys are allowed to wear long coats. I mean,
they are. Well, but what happened was like in college, like I knew people that were just kind of obsessed with him and with other people or movies and stuff. And like at a certain point, you just have enough. You're like, I've had enough of this. I don't. You hear about something too much, it makes you not like it, and that's kind of
that hype thing I was talking about in the group chat. Where it's like that shit don't affect me. I love the Kevin Smith movies.
But that's the thing though. Is like I did get kind of sick of hearing about it, but I did also like the movies I saw, which were at the time I had only seen Dogma, Clerks, and Chasing Amy, and I liked all three of those. But still, it was just like you hear about something too much, and you just are like, okay, I've had enough. But then like nowadays, that I'm sort of reaching this point where I'm like, okay, I need it. Like I took a step back from, these shows and from other things because I was like, I got to reevaluate my life. I got to shit or get off the pot basically. And cause I'm like 29 now, approaching 30. And it's like, I still am not anywhere close to where I want to be with my life. So it's like, I got to make this thing happen now if I'm going to expect to get anywhere, especially now that I've got another mouth to feed and he's trying to, bite me, of course, because he's
thought about breastfeeding.
I might not have any breast left by the time
they'll toughen up after a bit, dude. They'll become like some saddle leather, like Clint Eastwood.
Probably, but I've been so into like everything Kevin Smith because that guy has been like making his own damn movies forever, in the true Lloyd Kaufman fashion. And, has been able to like do stuff that I would like to do as far as like having an interconnected universe and being able to make movies that are different from what most people would do and distinct and, that kind of stuff. And it's like, now I would have a much different, like my sense of humor is a lot different for the most part. Like I tend to like stuff that's a bit more morbid than that. But, it's like you got to look at.
We all get a copy, dude.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Just don't let it go OOP on us. Okay.
Well, I mean, you
Exactly.
guys have been loyal from the beginning, and I mean, the loyalists are the ones who are really, the people you need by your side. But it's like, I just before I went on, I finished up the pilot script for it was gonna be a feature film western, but it actually is manifesting into like a series, like a streaming series, which I highly doubt I would necessarily be able to make happen right away. But it's such that like somebody comes to me after I make something and it's like, okay, now what do you want to do? Well, hand them that, and you have a ready-made thing to go off of. But
Either
it's
way,
like
time well spent on a writing exercise, eh? And then if it does come to something super fucking cool,
Well, and there's something to be said for, it's like maybe it doesn't manifest right away, but you have it on the shelf so that way you can pull it off the shelf when the time is right. Because which again, looking at Kevin Smith, that's actually something that he and I suspect quite a few, if not all, writer directors have had to do, where they have certain things that have they are on the shelf if they ever see the light of day, but they're there, and then when the moment presents itself, then they're able to dust it off and rewrite it and tweak it and get it to where it's ready to go for the public consumption. Like, we were supposed to get Moose Jaws or whatever, and I haven't heard anything new about that, but then it's like we were supposed to hear about Clerks 3, and then that's seemingly getting some momentum, and then Mallrats 2 is finally getting some momentum. And then, it's all these things that like have been in various stages of development that they come when the time's right. And I'm learning the fact that like you may feel like you're spinning your wheels, but at the same time, you're really not. You're getting something. You have something on the back burner that you can, when the time is right, that you can pull it off the shelf and then dust it off and make a few adjustments to where your headspace is at now. And then, you can make something happen that's meant to happen when it does. But that's kind of why I'm like, well, I was in distress for such a long time, because I was like, I got to do something now that'll get me going, something that'll, get my life to where I want it to be. And it's like, well, you can't force it. You can't force it, but there's nothing wrong with having a good amount of stuff in process on the shelf in some form, so that way you have something to go off of when you're ready for it, or when it's just ready for you.
Get it on the back burner, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I did that with like a burrito when I was drunk once, and it didn't turn out good. So just and I would.
That's why. Well, that's
you don't
why.
want to just hand that to someone else.
That's why I have a list. I have a list of projects. I have a list of projects that I hyperlink to their various Google Docs where their outlines exist, where they're whatever. I know kind of what stage of the process they're in. And I know
show it to people, like even if it's something you're not super stoked on initially, like there's always room for the idea to grow with other people involved too. So
well, and to it changes, and like I had the various puppet related projects I tried to make happen that didn't really manifest, but then I had people that were asking about them, and so I'm gonna try and dust those off and see where my headspace is now versus where it was then.
Well, good luck.
With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get things wrapping up tonight. It's getting late. I know that some of y'all still have to work this week. I know that me and Jake included, and I'm sure Dane as well.
Yeah.
Work has been murder. Like it's. I don't even get a day off until the 24th. So
and that sleep is like important for all of us.
Oh yeah.
Stop ordering things online. God damn it. I mean, I know, but at least for a week. Give me a week. Let the mail.
But and also my hats off to those people who actually work at the Postal Service, because darned if y'all not under a lot of pressure.
Oh, dude, I pulled my van into the fucking river today. I was like seriously considering it for a minute. Like, I bet you if I just rolled it in there They might fucking give me the day off, and I could probably convince them it wasn't my fault, like the parking brake failed or something. You know?
Well, they're on the front lines, that's for sure.
Dude, if it
Oh,
wasn't,
look at those poor
it,
people working Amazon too. My goodness.
Oh Lord.
dude, no joke. It's like 2 pallets come in every morning, bare minimum, that are like twice the height of me almost, full of packages, and like a good 2/3 of those go to my route because it's the biggest route at the post office. So it's been.
Which speaking of reevaluating my life, I had to kind of space out my collecting videos because again I had another mouth to feed and I gotta be, more financially responsible and that kind of stuff. So those have kind of slowed down. But to tie it into the Amazon thing, like my most viewed video is still the video where Back to the Future, that set got shipped to me damaged, and I kind of went on a little rant. A mini rant, but that's still my highest viewed video, which I find kind of funny.
Well, keep in mind this holiday season, most of that is not us at the Postal Service.
That's what I was gonna say, is that it seems like as much as I'm glad that Amazon was giving people jobs when a lot of them had lost their normal jobs or whatever, it seemed like their quality standards for packaging and everything kind of went down.
Yeah, well, 100% I can vouch for the fact that on the floor, like when I'm bringing it to your porch, that's not me that mangled your package like that. It was because it's poorly packaged, and then it was shipped through the system, which is overloaded at the moment anyways, and then pretty much damaged from the logistics of that,
Well, I know you, Mo, and I know that you handle people's packages much more lovingly and delicately than that.
I try to treat each customer individually and give them the love and care they deserve.
Exactly.
And just a shout out to Animazing again. Thanks for participating. Of course, if we ever are into that, and to any of y'all who are involved in this, if y'all are Facebook friends with the SeptumSin or SeptumSin versus the World account, of course, if we are under 6 people, you are welcome to let me know. I can always send you a link to join us in on the conversation.
Oh, God, I would love Roger in here. That guy's pretty sweet.
So, and a major and collector, and his collection is quite cool. His grid array is something to behold.
It really is.
Sure. But we have some amazing people here. And I'm just going to start letting us know who is in our group here. We've got, of course, Mo from Drunken Master Studios. When we watch videos, of course, I always check out his stuff when it's online. He's got some amazing stuff. It covers a wide array of things. Of course, my particular favorites at the moment, the Kaiju Quarantine, I still am very happy about, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing more of the Dragon Ball stuff. But there's a lot of cool stuff on that channel, and I'm always happy to see it. And of course, he guests on the Rebel Gaming Club a lot, and that's how I got introduced. And I tell you, if you have not subscribed to the Rebel Gaming Club,
do it.
You need to. It's they're really good, and a lot of the people there. Dan's an amazing person. He is a great guy. So if you haven't, you need to check them out and give them a subscribe. Of course, Dave with Inside Movies Galore. Hello. One of the premier channels for discussion of movies out there right now. Of course, I don't just say that because I'm on with them, but I say that because I do have a general affection towards the channel.
Of course, Dave, he's sexy. Look at him.
He does have also another channel, Delusions of Grandeur, and there's a lot of other reviews, discussions. It is if you like talk about movies, it is a channel you should check out. And this week we are covering more Christmas films, so you should check us out as we cover the film The Santa Claus, and of course the major film that everybody loves on Christmas, National Harpoon's Christmas Vacation 2. I mean, you can't go a Christmas without watching that one. So, well worth checking out.
Maybe you can.
And then, of course, we've got that day.
Probably rather have my head slammed in the door of my van. But we'll get there.
I look forward to hearing the group's interest in that one. I'm going to be leading that discussion, as unfortunate as that is. And of course, we've got Dane Damarong, which is got the indie horror movie creative. Did I get all of that?
Collective, or have you said it wrong?
Indie horror movie film creative.
Indie horror film
right?
creative, yes. And
I think Brandon said it wrong for so long that he's got me now.
Yeah.
I just like say it wrong every time. It's just there, but amazing channel. And Dane will give you an in-depth look at each of the pickups that he has, as well as a great insight into filmmaking. A lot of his short films are quite amazing to check out. We've listed a few today when we talked about, so you should check them out if you can get a hold of a copy.
Just again, to give them their due too. Like, Forrest was in that Trauma music video recently. Our boy Forrest Bennett, and then also Dustin from Crypt of Horrors definitely deserves a shout out too. I've been watching a lot of his content in addition to getting caught up on your guys' over at SeptumSin versus the World, and it's great stuff. It'll get you through a day of work, like real quick. Sorry, Brandon, continue.
And there's going to be another version of this released later in the week, with, of course, our opener and ender, and I'm going to have the added tags and the added stuff to the comment section later. But as it is, I just wanted to make sure that y'all got your due, because y'all are amazing individuals, and I do appreciate it. Of course, we've got Kotobuki Jake, which is my co-host.
Hi.
Which, if y'all are watching the channel, if you don't know who he is, I don't know what you're watching. I guess you're just watching the reviews, apparently, which I appreciate. And speaking of, as far as our channel is concerned, we do have our anime review, our monthly review coming up, and we've got a Christmas theme. Yes, it is going to be past Christmas next Monday, but we do have a Christmas-themed anime, and that is called Itsudate My Santa. It's a 2-episode kind of series, but it is something fun for the holidays, and I hope you join us all next Monday. I don't know how many of this group are going to be here for that kind of thing, but I hope that we see at least some of you there.
Oh, you know, I'll be there, dude, even if people don't want me there. I can't miss up.
We're going to be happy to have whoever we have there, definitely. And we will see you all, of course, next week.
Definitely.
Ah.